Hello, Sandman Nation. Well, as you can tell, I am not in my normal spot. Now, today, I am in Georgetown, Grand Cayman, sitting at a Haagen-Dazs ice cream. We were on the high seas in the Atlantic Ocean, cruising the Caribbean until a few short hours ago. But I am in my sandals. I'm in my bathing suit. I still have my game face on, and I am ready for another awesome show. So let's get into it, boys, because it is time to enter Sandman Sports. As always, I'm here with my awesome co-host, Mr. Pat Klett. Just like Clark Griswold, Pat once took his family on a cross-country vacation. Hours of driving, backseat bickering, minimal bathroom stops, and an emotional breakdown in a Cracker Barrel parking lot. But hey, the Polaroids were amazing, and he still swears Chrissy Brinkley was stalking him. And then there's Bill Sanders, the Sandman, a man so legendary, so unshakably composed, a man so used to greatness because, let's face it, he lives with himself every day. It's nearly impossible to impress him even on vacation. The man once stood at the edge of the Grand Canyon and muttered, "Really? That's it? Grand my ass." Yeah, this guy has standards, but you know what? We have standards too, albeit they may be low at times. But before we get into all that, let's tell everyone where they can find us. Seaman listeners, you can find us everywhere, just like annoying kids on the cruise ship I'm on. One freaking awesome place that is never annoying is our jam-packed website, entersandmansports.com. We're dropping new content every single day, articles, videos, and more. This week alone, we've added coverage on March Madness, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NFL Draft, and our St. Louis Syndicate has dropped breakdowns for every division in Major League Baseball. Great insights around who they like, especially from a betting standpoint, for all the over-unders. So check those out to get amped up and prepared for the upcoming baseball season, which starts, I believe, tomorrow. So exciting stuff there. Other places to follow us as well: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all at Enter Sandman Sports. All right, guys. Well, let's get into the opening. I was going to bring this up a couple weeks ago, but we had more pressing topics. This week, though, I think it's perfect timing. So I recently saw that ESPN is canceling one of its longest running shows, Around the Horn. It first aired back in 2002, just a few months after Pardon the Interruption. Max Kellerman hosted it for the first couple of years, and Tony Reali's been the guy ever since. Format simple, 4 sports writers trading takes and debating the week's sports headlines. It's been a staple for over 2 decades. So that news got me thinking, not just about that show, but about ESPN overall. We are now 32 episodes in to our show, our podcast, and I don't think we've given ESPN the true credit it probably deserves. This is a network that basically invented the way we consume sports on TV. It shaped the whole model: debate shows, highlight culture, the way we think about anchors, analysts, even commercials. So today, I thought it would be nice, boys, to take a few minutes to pay tribute to ESPN and what it's meant to us as sports fans. So anything goes here: favorite anchors, iconic moments, shows you like, hilarious ads, whatever you want to share. So Pat, let's start with you. First, though, I do want to know if you'll miss Around the Horn, if that was a show you ever watched, and then hit us with some of your favorite stuff about ESPN over the years.
Yeah, I used to watch Around the Horn back in the day, a long time ago. I liked it. I like the concept. You're giving points for comments. I thought that would be kind of fun to do on our show. But I haven't watched it for years. And every show has a shelf life, including this podcast, guys. Someday this will end.
Wow. And why are you talking blasphemy?
Probably end horribly, like a big falling out between me and Bill or something,
It's bound to happen. Yeah.
It's episode 33. But
what
I was going to say
episode 33.
Yeah. So we should probably tell our listeners. Well, I guess we did tell them, but I could be thrown out of this place at any moment since I'm sitting in a Haagen-Dazs ice cream.
Well, and Pat's frozen. Are you seeing that, Eric? Pat's been frozen.
He looks good to me.
He's just smiling, and mine just frozen solid. So I'm glad that he's I'm glad that I can hear him because his video is frozen.
Yeah, I think PTI has to go as well. I'm done with what is that, Wilbon and those guys.
Yeah,
I'm no more.
Kornheiser.
No.
Yeah,
Kornheiser. Yep, those guys. It's time to go. But yeah. Do you want me to answer the next part about ESPN?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Give us all your stuff about ESPN.
Look, I steal all my material from ESPN. They're great. I've been watching them forever. I love the commercials, always funny and clever. My favorite guys have pretty much left, except for Scott Van Pelt. I used to really appreciate like Rich Eisen, Stuart Scott, Kenny Mayne, Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, Mike Tirico. Those guys were great. But what I really look forward to are the specialty anchors. Like you got Buster Olney and Tim Kirchin and Peter Gammons for baseball, right? Mel Kiper and Florio and Ed Werder for football. Dick Vitale and Jay Billis for hoops, and hockey's Barry Melrose, So
yeah,
I like when they bring in the experts and get down to it. But I can sit through Sports Center occasionally nowadays, but sometimes they lock into NBA and they'll do like NBA highlights twice and they won't show hockey highlights, or they'll have like women's WNBA and talk about it and bring in the experts forever. And I just can't sit through it. I feel like I need more highlights. I need more intel. I don't need to watch, someone's take on the Celtics Cavs game for 30 minutes. Like that's enough. It's overkill. But yeah, ESPN, it's the go-to place, it always has been. So
love it.
What about you?
Yeah, same thing for me. I mean, long time ESPN fan. I remember when Ken Griffey came onto the scene in Seattle and Sports Center was rolling, and that was like such a huge deal to even get Mariner highlights. I mean, because you just never saw that before that. And Griff kind of put Seattle on the map in terms of ESPN and coverage and all that. But I don't know if you guys can still hear me. My headphones just cut out.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I don't think I've ever watched an entire episode of Around the Horn. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Wow.
yeah, that type of show is just
It's
like
not
PT.
yours.
Yeah, I just don't really enjoy it. I did have to give Tony Reali some props though. I thought he's a great host. I've seen little bits and pieces, and then I don't know if you guys saw the Woody Hayes segment the other day, but one of the other hosts was giving him kind of like, "You're the legend, you're the GOAT" props, and he got so emotional. It was cool, and I'm anyway, that was just really neat. I thought a bit to see. I love Sports Center back in the day. Pat just ripped off a ton of good anchors. I love Patrick and Oberman. They were so good back in the
Me
day.
too.
And then I'll just highlight the last two things. I love College Game Day. I think it is my favorite show on
Best.
all
Yeah.
of television. It's just absolutely love that show every single week, must watch. And then the commercials, and I'm just gonna call out. I mentioned this gentleman a bunch of podcasts ago, but John Clayton is a local Seattle guy. He passed away now a few years ago, but his commercial, do you guys remember the one where he rips off the little thing and he's got the Slayer t-shirt? And then he lets his
one of the
hair
best
out.
commercials ever.
He's got the rat tail. Yeah.
Rat tail. He's got the rat tail going, and he's, "Mom, I'm done with my segment." He does the whole deal. So anyway, and Clayton worked with my dad at the Tacoma News Tribune, and my dad knew him pretty well. So apparently he's just was the nicest human being ever. And so I always really appreciated that commercial. But in doing the research, there were 100 ESPN commercials. I probably watched 40 or 50. There's so many good ones in that mix, and I had forgot a lot of them. So it was pretty cool to see those again. But yeah, Bierman, how about you with ESPN?
Yeah, so you guys hit on a lot of things that were floating in my head too. As far as Around the Horn, I would go in spurts. Sometimes I would watch it for a couple weeks, then I wouldn't, and then back on. And I found some of them interesting. I will say my favorite was Woody Page. That guy is a legend. I feel like he's on every single episode for the 20 plus years that show's been on. I like how he has the notes behind him that he writes up there.
That's right.
But I will say unlike Pat, I never liked the point system. I get that it was meant as a gimmick, but I found it distracting and just not helpful at all. But it was a good show. But I the same thing, like it lasts a long time. It probably run its due. And I feel the same way, Pat, about PTI. Like I like the show. I actually do like Michael Wilbon. Kornheiser I could do without, but it just, to me, the show's, it's time to move on. In terms of ESPN itself, you guys hit on the majority of what I was going to say, but one person you didn't mention was Chris Berman, who, we all love the nicknames, and he, back in the 80s, 80s, early 90s, when I was still growing up, like his nicknames, he was like the face of ESPN. Like, I mean, he helped really popularize ESPN.
No
Tom
doubt.
Lehman, I think, was it Tom Lehman? I think he was another guy that I forget.
He's a golfer.
Tom Lehman's a golfer. Yep.
Yeah, but I called Woody Page Woody Hayes. So, I called him Woody Hayes earlier.
Hey, I'm sure at some point ESPN showed Tom Lehman on their highlights.
They did,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't think
Rich
who you're
Eisen,
talking about.
Rich Eisen.
No, who was the guy? He was like one of the.
Charlie
he was
Steiner.
one of the goats. Charlie Steiner was good. Yeah. There was some. Was it Mees? Tom Mees?
Oh,
maybe he was a golfer. There was a guy that like was an original and he drowned, like in his backyard pool or something.
No,
very weird. Anyways, but Berman, I'm not. I've heard Berman's kind of a dick, so
really.
Yeah, I've heard he's kind of a jerk, and so I'm not a huge fan of him anymore.
You're actually thinking of Bierman.
That was good. You've been waiting a long time, I think, for that one, haven't you?
Bierman, you nailed it too. It is Tom Mees, and he drowned in a pool. He drowned.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It was.
I didn't remember that.
He was one of the originals, but with Berman, I mean, I do have to just share some of my favorite nicknames of Berman. I think we've talked about a couple of these maybe on the show, but Bert, be home by 11. I think that's probably his best.
Shout out Twins.
Yeah. Yep. Eric, sleeping with, be enemy.
Be enemy. Yep.
Wow, this one's good too. Mike, you're in good hands with, all stot.
Nice.
And I always liked this. John, I am not a crook. I thought that was a good one too.
No Maserati Marv. No Maserati Marv.
No Maserati Marv. No. I also loved NFL
close.
Primetime. NFL Primetime. Do you guys remember that with him and
that was
Jackson?
The best.
I mean, that was Jackson. Obviously before Sunday Ticket and all the 24 hour coverage
Game Day
games.
Highlights is now the new one. Yeah.
And then Berman, he also did his Swami picks, which I don't think were very good. But I was wondering, I could see Pat doing the Swami picks. Maybe should we? Is the one thing that this show is missing a crystal ball? Could that be? Should we add a crystal ball to this and just have Pat make his picks?
I think it's missing a couple more things than that, but yeah.
Could be. Bierman, are you missing your train?
Maybe that's
it. Is there a train waiting to pick you up?
Yeah, guys, this is not going to go down as one of our best episodes. I can tell you that right now.
It could be just total
I like it
chaos.
So far.
The Lady Gaga playing in the background earlier I was like, maybe we need music going behind us all the time.
Dude, there's a chicken walking across the doorway right now. So
you are a trooper for doing this, man. You are a trooper.
The show must go on. So
nice.
I also loved the ESPN Classic channel back in the day. They don't have that anymore, but that was where you could just watch all kinds of old shows and stuff. And then Mike and Mike in the Morning on ESPN Radio for years was something that I
never listened to them
pretty much every day. But of course, it wouldn't be me if I didn't also talk about things I don't like about ESPN. So one of those is the ESPYs. I freaking hate the ESPYs. I think it's just the stupidest made up thing ever.
They still do it?
Cannot.
They still do the ESPYs?
I think so.
Yeah. I also cannot stand Stephen A. Smith. The guy I have a convulsion every time.
He's atrocious.
I hear his voice. So, but you know what? I'm not a huge fan of ESPN anymore. I used to in the day. I don't watch it a lot. I just, there's a vibe to it that I feel like has changed. But back in the day, the anchors, the commercials, the shows, we owe a lot to them as sports fans, and even us as, getting into the entertainment version of sports here with this pod and our website and all that. We owe a lot to ESPN. And so tip of the cap to you. Appreciate all that you've done for the world of sports.
Yeah, Bierman, I was surprised you put this in.
Yeah, because I don't like ESPN.
I knew you didn't like ESPN, so I was a little surprised to see it.
I know. But
the other shout out
is Sam Ponder.
Before you go real quick. Oh, Sam Ponder. I love Sam Ponder.
Oh yeah.
But I think she got fired too. She got let go.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So, but I just was going to shout out one more thing about ESPN that I forgot originally, and that's ESPN.com. It really was like the groundbreaking
That's a great
sports
point.
web portal. And if you remember back in the day, I mean, it was like the first one to put actual like video highlights on the front page and everything. And I mean, just game changing across the board. I mean, Bill Simmons, when he came on and he was doing all his stuff with the sports guy stuff that then became the Ringer, they really were cutting edge on the website as well, and just so much good content through the years. So we didn't even mention 30 for 30s.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, so much good stuff. Anyway, Pat, sorry, I interrupted you twice. What were you going to say?
No, I was just saying thanks for giving us Sam Ponder. I mean, that was the biggest.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I think that was their biggest contribution.
Oh, gosh,
over the last
stunning.
umpteen years.
Aaron Andrews.
Aaron Andrews, Sam
was she
Ponder.
on? Yeah. Oh.
There's one on NFL Primetime too. I can't remember her name, but she's not ugly. She's not ugly.
Primetime. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, with Orlovsky.
One?
With Orlovsky and
Oh, I never watched that.
You just made me think of somebody. There was a very attractive woman who I think she was on ESPN for a very short amount of time. Her first name was Brittany. I don't remember her last name. And there was a video of her that went viral where like at a Wendy's drive-through, she like threw F-bombs and like
I remember.
Do you remember? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I don't know if she was on ESPN or not,
I think
but
she got shit canned. For that.
Wherever she was working, she definitely got fired, and I think it was from ESPN. But we'll get our
she was like a Tennessee woman from Tennessee or something. I remember.
Yeah. Don't mess with people in the service industry. All right.
No.
Just don't do it.
I agree. No.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for paying our respects to ESPN. Let's now get into our show. As always, we'll start with headlines from the past weekend, hot takes and reflections. We'll get into our Stone Cold Locks, which this week we'll keep talking about March Madness. We'll break down all the Sweet 16 matchups. Then we'll get into this week's top 5, where we will be all vacation themed this week. And of course, we will have plenty of fun and shenanigans along the way. And Pat will share with us the time he ran a 5K. It was by accident and he was chasing a taco truck, but he will spill the details anyway. All right, the headlines. The big news was, of course, mainly about all the basketball action. There wasn't a ton of upsets this year, guys. In fact, according to ESPN Bet, this was the first time since 2019 that double-digit underdogs went winless in the first round. And this stat is crazy to me. This is the first time the Sweet 16 is composed entirely of major conference teams since the Sweet 16 officially began back in 1975. Only 4 different conferences are represented. Every other Sweet 16 had at least 7. I mean, that is just crazy to me how little variety we have in the programs that have made it this year to the Sweet 16, and just very few upsets. Doesn't mean the tournament hasn't been great, but it's been different for sure. Other first round news: Kansas's streak of 17 consecutive first round tournament victories ended this year with their loss to John Calipari's Arkansas squad, but 17 straight first round wins. Wow. I would not have guessed that. And that is a very impressive stat, Jayhawks. Not as impressive though. Kansas also becomes the second AP preseason number 1 to lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament. The first team to do it was themselves, who did the exact same feat back in 2006. Speaking of Calipari's Arkansas squad, they also upset number 2 St. John's and become a double-digit seed to make the Sweet 16. And this stat also shocked me, guys. Since 1985, at least one double-digit seed has made it to the Sweet 16 every year, except 2, 1995 and 2007. I would not have guessed that it has happened that often. But this year it was just the one. It's the number 10 seed, Arkansas Razorbacks. They look good, and they will try and keep their run going against number 3 seed Texas Tech on Thursday. Speaking of Texas Tech, they set an NCAA record in their first round game against UNC Wilmington when the Red Raiders took 46 3-pointers in one game. most in tournament history. The Michigan Wolverines finished in last place in the Big Ten last year, but now under first-year coach Dusty May, they find themselves in the Sweet 16 for the 8th time since 2013, which I also thought was pretty impressive, especially for a predominantly football-focused school. The ACC continued to have people scratch their heads as 3 of the 4 turning teams lost in the first round, with only Duke still remaining from that conference, which again, I think begs the question, how good is Duke, knowing that they played in such a bad conference? Number 12 seed McNeese State won their first game ever in the tournament by beating Clemson 69-67. And in the women's bracket, 6 women teams scored more than 100 points in the opening round, the most ever in NCAA tournament history. Very nice. And in the sad news of the week, guys, legendary boxer and sports personality George Foreman passed away at the age of 76. I will share more about Big George and hot takes, but just wanted to share it here too, as it's big news when we lose such historic sports figures. So rest in peace, Big George. You will be missed. All right, guys. Shorter take on headlines again this week. So let's get right into our hot takes. Yes, that's right. It's time for Seeing Me in Sports Hot Takes, brought to you by Mike's Hot Honey. The honey's so good, the New York Giants just signed it as their backup quarterback, and it will probably be starting by mid-October. If you want to sign this awesome honey to your starting lineup, go to mikeshothoney.com and order some, or go to the honey aisle at your local grocery store. All right, Pat, start us off with your hot take, sir.
I'm not saying like I'm a basketball genius, but we did say last week it's going to be all chalk. It's going to be very chalky. And I mentioned St. John's. I don't believe in them because every year there's a team that comes up that, oh, wow,
Yep.
they're good this year. And they get knocked out. So St. John's kind of called that one. But for me, it was this weekend was a blur of basketball, so much that by the end of it, I couldn't focus, and my family kicked me out of the TV room. They literally told me I need to leave. It's our turn. So that's fine. And I turned it off for a few hours. And of course, I'm telling my son, I'm like, this year we haven't had any buzzer beaters. It's, they've been good games, but no buzzer beaters. And of course, when my family makes me turn off the TV, the Maryland buzzer beater happens. So I didn't get to see that one. But other than that, I noticed some terrible officiating in a couple of games, especially the Michigan State one. I didn't think that was officiated that well. And then the lengthy reviews, like who touched it last. Bill and I were talking about this yesterday, how the last minute and a half of a game is taking 30 minutes with all these reviews. So that's been a little rough, but otherwise it's been good. And the teams that I wanted to root for, I start watching these games and I'm getting behind these teams and I'm like, oh, I want them to pull through. They've all lost. A good example of that would be Oregon. Like, I love that guy Biddle for Oregon, the big lumbering center. I mean, he's just a classic old school. He's got the little sky hook. What were you saying yesterday? He's got like a mullet. He's almost got like a mullet.
He's
like
balding, sweet, like severely balding,
but with like a kind of like a little bit of a But yeah, I thought,
how dare you compliment Oregon?
Were you shaming a bald person, Bill? That feels a little kettle black there.
No. I'm just saying, if you're 22 years old and you're losing your hair that badly, shave it. Like that, we don't need to see it's not a comb over, but it's like just kind of this shock of hair coming out his head, and he's got a giant hole in the back. That guy, he is old school, like Pat said. His little sky hooks, and he's actually pretty athletic for a big man. He can throw down.
That's the other thing. I'm 5'8", so I'm not going nuts to butts in the low post anytime soon. I'm not down there, so I don't really know that area of basketball. I was more a point guard shooter, but there's been a lot of good battles, tough rebounding, like good down in the post battles in a lot of these games. So a lot of the big men this year have been fun to watch. But I did. The only other thing I'll say is I did watch the end of the Valspar with Hovland and JT. So it's good to see. It's good to see kind of a mediocre, big names at the top of a mediocre tournament. And JT blew it, and Hovland was clutch through the snake pit. So that was actually a good finish to that tournament. I know it was kind of a basketball dominated weekend, but I did happen to tune in for the last like 5 holes of that, and that was a good watch. So, all right, what about you, Bill?
we were sweating. Me and a couple buddies have Nico Echeverria in the Calcutta, and so one of the guys, Brian Netz from out in your neck of the woods, Pat, he texted and said, he goes, "Hey, happy Nico watching day." And so me, Heil, and Netz were sweating that, and Nico just couldn't get anything going. And then Justin Thomas got crazy hot. And then Viktor Hovland just kind of kept plodding along. And then he, like you said, he played awesome through the snake pit and ended up really just stealing the tournament. But anyway, yeah, we did watch quite a bit of it. March Madness, I mean, Eric nailed it. It's just been kind of bland. I mean, not bad games, but in fact, the games in Seattle were actually probably some of the best games. I mean, Colorado State had a nice upset in the first round. They had that great close game with the Maryland buzzer beater, in the second round. And some really good games. I have another buddy from Minneapolis who was out here with his two boys, and they were watching games in Seattle, and they said that all 4 games were just awesome games this weekend. So that was kind of cool. Shout out to Donna Rhodes. She is the leader of the main brackets pool with us. She went 30-2, you guys, in round 1. She hit her first 24 in a row. So she was rolling along, and her husband, who's played with us for a long time, he was giving me updates like X amount of people have made a perfect bracket through these picks. I mean, they were like all over it. It was kind of cool watching their excitement on that. I was going to point out NIL, I think, is just absolutely changing the landscape of sports, college sports, but you're noticing it in college basketball. And we talked a little bit about it on the last pod, but the ACC, as Eric mentioned, is toilet. I mean, outside of Duke, they're terrible. And I think it's just, you're going to just keep seeing SEC, Big Ten. They are just going to be the teams that are just, all except for maybe the Huskies in Minnesota in basketball. But, they're just going to keep rising because all the money's going there, all the power. It's a shame because you think about the blue bloods like North Carolina, even Florida State has been really dominant for quite a few years there. Is it Leonard Hamilton? I think the coach, he's done a great job with Florida State forever. I don't even know if he's still there, to be honest, but there's a lot of good ACC programs through the years, and it's just kind of a bummer to see them struggle. But the last thing I'll mention before I kick it over to you, Beerman, on the women's side, you mentioned it, but I mean, there were blowouts of epic proportions. I mean, at one point I showed my phone to my son. I was like, look at this score. Duke was ahead by 67 points in the tournament. Usually, I mean, even if it's a 16 versus a 1 seed, I mean, you're not losing by 67 points. And there were multiple games I saw where the favorites were blowing teams out by more than 50. I mean, that was just stunning to me. So anyway, overall, decent tournament, but yeah, kind of a bummer. I did one shout out to the Barstool Foreplay guys that I love their pod so much. They do a contest at Barstool Sports where they offer, I think it was 40 grand to, they have to draft teams that are 9 seeds through 16 seeds, and whoever makes it the longest wins this $40,000. And the guy from the Foreplay pod, they drafted Arkansas. And if you remember, Arkansas was my favorite there as well to beat St. John's. And so that's been, they did the 10 seed is the longest lasting seed in the tournament, which is just kind of crazy, as Bierman said. So anyway, hopefully we get a bunch of good games here with the Sweet 16 and on. I would love to see a few crazy upsets, but
yeah.
I think Florida State coach is on his last year. And
didn't
he retire?
Is, yeah.
And then we picked up Colorado State's coach. Yesterday.
Saw that. Nico Medved.
But
and
I don't know if
just got Richard Pitino. Did you guys see that? We just
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Because was it Sean Miller that went to Texas?
He went to Texas.
Yeah, that's right. A little coaching carousel. That's right.
Crazy.
Cool. Patino's done a nice job.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking about Chris Mack bringing him back, which I would have been fine with too. Xavier guy and Coach Xavier. To a lot of success, but I think Richard Pitino is an interesting one. He's done really well. So, all right, guys. Well, I mentioned George Foreman. Want to start my hot takes with him, and I mean, he's a boxing legend, a marketing genius, and a true American original. Not everyone knows this, I don't think, especially the younger crowd, but long before the grills, George Foreman was one of the scariest human beings to ever put on gloves. I mean, he was a big, hard hitter. He burst onto the scene by winning the gold medal at the 1968 Olympics, turned pro, ran through the heavyweight division. By 1973, he was 37-0 with 34 knockouts. And then he just had a total demolition of Joe Frazier, and that's when he became the heavyweight champion. That fight wasn't even close, guys. He dropped Frazier 6 times in 2 rounds. 6 times in 2 rounds. At that point, George was seen as unbeatable. He was big, he was mean, he had heavy hands, no nonsense, he had the scowl. Then came one of the most famous boxing matches in history, the Rumble in the Jungle, back in 1974 in Zaire, when Muhammad Ali pulled off the upset of the century and introduced the world to the rope-a-dope. Foreman went from terrifying destroyer to just a stunned and beaten guy, and he kind of left quietly, retired. No one heard from him for about 10 years. And then he came back. He was a little older, a little rounder, a little happier, but he was still powerful. A lot of people thought it was a joke. He kept winning. And then at the age of 45 in 1994, he knocked out Michael Moorer and became the oldest heavyweight champion in history. He literally reclaimed the belt 2 decades after losing it. That is crazy. After boxing, of course, he leaned into the next chapter of his life, the George Foreman Grill. He was father to 5 sons, all named George. I mean, seriously, he might be the only man on earth who can pull that off. So, just commercials come to a public persona.
Named every one of his kids George.
Yeah, and the girls.
Maybe I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I lost so much respect for him right there. What an idiot.
My buddy Blake, that was out in Seattle with his 2 boys watching hoops. He has Blake Jr. is his oldest son, and then his youngest son is named Will, but he tried to convince his wife Verini to name him Blake the Third. And she goes, "No, we're not doing that," because it was going to be Blake Jr. and Blake the Third. So shout out to George Foreman. Yeah, that was Blake's idea. Verini shut it down. No,
George, you got to do the dishes. They'd be like, "Which George?" They got to have nicknames like galore in that house. Dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Ever.
Putting the child naming aside, George Foreman,
I can't get past this, Eric.
Wow, you can't. You can't. This is really bothering you. This is this is almost like helmets.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, Georgetta was one of his girls, but all the younger guys all have nicknames, Pat. Big Wheel, Red, Little Joey, Monk, but they're all named George.
So, that's awesome.
Sorry, Eric. Keep
no,
going.
Dude, this is great. This is great. George Foreman finished 76-5 with 68 knockouts. He was a 2-time heavyweight champ, Olympic gold medalist, business mogul, cultural icon. Rest easy, Big George. You punched hard. You lived large. So we'll miss you for sure. All right. I do want to give a nod to a new sponsor of Hot Takes this week. That's right. It's time for Sandman Sports Hot Takes. Brought to you. It should be.
Carnival Cruise Lines?
No, this week it is brought to you by Roger Ayers. Roger Ayers, you ask? Do you know who Roger Ayers is? He's not a sponsor. He's a referee, a college basketball official who 99% of the time only gets noticed when they blow a call, they miss a foul, or they get booed by the crowd for a variety of different reasons. But not this time, because I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is one of the coolest stories I've seen in a long time. The closing seconds of the Liberty game in the NCAA tournament this past weekend, referee Roger Ayers saw something that was not on the stat sheet. He saw a senior on the bench all game, waiting for a shot at one last moment on the court. Less than a minute left. So what does he do? He, quote, spotted some water on the floor. So he blows the whistle. He calmly stopped play, gave the kid a look, and let the kid sub in. Not because he had to, but because he could. because in a sport built on rules and whistles, he made room for a human moment. I mean, guys, that is not just good officiating. That is
awesome.
Good life lesson right there. To me, that's the best assist we've seen all March long, and I love it. So this week, my hot takes are brought to you by Roger Ayers.
Nice.
All right, guys. Well, with that kind of energy in
my
the
hot
air,
takes were brought to you by all 5 of George Foreman's boys. For having to live. I can't do it. I can't get over it. What are you doing?
All right, let's get into our Stone Cold Locks. Last week it was all about March Madness. We gave our final 4 picks. As of now, only Pat's Texas A&M pick out of the South is out, but all 11 other picks that we've made are still in for the final 4. So doing well. Today we'll break down each Sweet 16 matchup with the lines, and you just tell us who you like, what side. I'll throw in the over-under too as we go through each of these. If you like any of that side, feel free to throw that in too. All right, so we're just going to go in order. The Thursday games, we'll start the 7:09 game. Number 6 BYU versus number 2 Alabama. Crimson Tide's favored by 4.5. The over-under is pretty high on this. It's 175.5. 2 high-scoring teams. Who do you like in this one, Pat?
Give me. Well, I thought I'm going against Alabama because I just don't like them and I don't want to see them win. So they're probably going to win. But give me BYU. I thought BYU over Wisconsin was impressive, and just out of spite, give me BYU.
Bill? Same for me. Mormons plus 4.5.
They can shoot. Yep.
Give me Joe Smith. Joe Smith in the post. Give me the tablets. Give me everything.
The over. Give me the over too.
Throw the book at him.
Mm-hmm. Well, Pat and I couldn't disagree more on both of those things. So here we go. We're getting right into it.
Here we go.
For me, am going with Alabama. Guys, the team is number 1 in the nation scoring. They are relentless, fast-paced. BYU scores a lot too. They're number 21 in the nation, but I actually think that type of style is going to play perfectly into Alabama's plans. Their defense is still bad, and that certainly concerns me, but I think they're just going to simply outshoot and outscore this team, and 4.5 just isn't a lot, in my opinion, for this game. I think the BYU ride ends, so give me the Crimson Tide minus points, and I'm actually leaning on the under here. It's just, God, it's a lot of points. 175.5 is a lot.
Yeah.
But, I'm not sure I would touch it either way. All right, let's go to the next game. Number 4 Maryland versus number 1 seed Florida. The Gators are 6.5-point favorites. Over under is 155.5. What do you like on that one, Pat?
Yeah, I got Florida. This is where a number 1 seed survives a scare and then comes back with a vengeance. I mean, they played a tough UConn team. That was a good battle, but I think this is where it's like, all right. And Maryland had that dramatic win where I didn't think they played that great when I watched the first half, and then I had to turn it off. But other than
you missed
Queen,
the best finish.
Yeah, if they can shut down Queen, they'll have no problem. Florida rolls. What about you?
Yeah, just repeat Pat's comments exactly for me. I think Florida got their dog game out of the way. I think Maryland's riding this high, but they were lucky to win that thing. Does that kid travel at the end? I don't know. But yeah, I give me Florida minus 6.5.
Dude, if that wasn't a travel, I don't know what it was. And I wanted Maryland to win it, but and I know Gene Serator, or whatever his name is, he said it was not a travel, and he defended the refs, but I mean, he took like 3 steps.
Yeah, it was 3 big steps for sure.
He was gathering the ball.
Gather step. Yeah. I like Florida though. I mean, Eric, you were on these guys a month and a half ago or so.
Yeah.
I
love Florida.
They look good.
But I'm going against you guys.
Really?
With the points, I do like the Terps here to keep it close. Florida did get a wake-up call over the weekend, which does scare me. You guys are dead on that. That's where I'm getting a little nervous. But Maryland played clutch and coming back against Colorado State, making that buzzer beater. So, similar to Bama, BYU game. Both these teams are top 20 in scoring, but different here is both do play pretty decent defense. Maryland's actually top 30 in defensive scoring allowed. So I expect a little low scoring. I do think Florida wins the game. I do, but I think it's going to be close. I think Maryland can keep this one close. So I wouldn't be shocked if you guys are right on this one, but I'll take Maryland plus the points. And I do not like the play on the over under here. If I had to pick, I'd pick the over, but I don't like it.
Yeah, same.
All right, the 9:39 game on Thursday, number 4 seed Arizona against number 1 Duke. Duke's 9.5 point favorites. Over unders 151.5. What do you got here, Pat?
Caleb Love looks good. He could take over a game. But Duke has been they just look so solid. They're just rolling. So got to go with Duke, but the X factor is Caleb Love. If he wants to, he can step on the gas and but what I heard someone talking about, maybe they can get after Cooper Flagg and just go after him right away and try to get him to foul trouble. Maybe that's their shot. Maybe that's what they could do. But I think Duke has looked so impressive that you just got to stick with the hot hand, and they are right now the hottest hand. So what about you, Bill?
The same. I mean, Pat and I are just on the same page, and I'm guessing Eric's not going to be because of his comment earlier about Duke. So yeah. I just think you give Duke. If this line was 15.5, I'd take Duke. I'd tease this thing hard the other way. I have not been a big fan of Arizona this year. Did watch them quite a few times just because of the old Pac-12 connection. But Caleb Love, streaky for sure. I actually love Tommy Lloyd. Great coach. I think I mentioned last pod, I was hoping the Huskies would throw the bag at him, and he obviously chose the right way and went to Arizona. But yeah, to me, Duke is just so solid, you guys. And what I'm most impressed with is even when Cooper Flagg was down, they still have so much talent around him. And so even if he was to get in foul trouble, I wouldn't be super concerned here. I just love Duke, and they've been my pick the whole way. I'm going to keep riding them.
I don't say this too often, but I'm going to join the threesome with you guys.
Okay. All right.
That's
three
hot.
Pat.
That's hot.
The 3 Pat.
Yeah.
That's hot.
Yeah. I mean, guys, Duke.
When in Grand Cayman.
Duke looks unstoppable. I simply don't see how they don't win this game by double digits. It's as simple as that. So, I mean, they have so many weapons. Arizona is so hot and cold. They're a good team, but Duke can score this 10-point margin in 90 seconds, I feel like. So I think this game's going to get out of control early. So definitely taking Duke minus points.
All right.
I'm not touching the over-under, though. I don't like that at all. So, all right, the last game on Thursday, number 10 seed Arkansas versus 3 seed Texas Tech. The Red Raiders are 5.5 point favorites. Over-under is 146.5.
Yeah, I thought St. John's had an epically terrible shooting game, so that helped Arkansas. Obviously, I like Coach Cal, and his players are getting stronger and healthier as the year goes on. But to pull off this upset, I don't know, figure out a way to stop Toppin. That's it. I think it'll be a good game. I could see either of these teams going, and I'm rooting for Arkansas and Coach Cal, but give me Texas Tech.
Yeah, this one, Pat and I finally disagree on something, but I'm just going to keep riding Arkansas. And Eric mentioned Texas Tech. I mean, they are chuckers. I mean, those guys, and this is the first time I watched any extended Texas Tech action. If they shoot the ball even a little bit better, they're likely cover this. But man, oh man, they were not shy. They just, I mean, was it 46, Eric? You said? Yeah, 46 threes. I mean,
46
insane.
Tournament record. I mean, that's
insane. Yeah. I mean, yeah, just insane how many threes they jacked up. But here's the thing about Arkansas that I love. If you've heard Coach Cal's some of his speeches in the locker room, I just love the message. They're in this perfect spot of like they're the last big underdog, and they just can have that chip, and just go into this game really with no pressure, no stress. And I just don't know if Texas Tech is good enough to overcome the way that Arkansas is rolling right now. So I'm going to take the plus 5.5. I obviously wouldn't be surprised if Texas Tech wins the game, but I'm going to take the points here.
That is such good analysis, Bill. I honestly couldn't agree more. I love the whole kind of last underdog remaining, chip on your shoulder, nothing to lose, and Calipari is going to play into that. I love it. I definitely have Arkansas plus the points here too. You know, Calipari's won more games in the tourney this year than all years combined since 2019. He had only won one in that 6-year span, and already won 2. So I really like this Razorback squad, and I'm just not sold on Texas Tech. They play very good defense, though, so similar to Florida. I could see Tech winning this game, but it does feel like a buzzer beater type game to me. Definitely not blowout. So much so, I actually really like the money line here on this for Arkansas plus 205. Cal has his magic going. This team believes in themselves, and Tech just is not a juggernaut to me. So, Pig Suey, let's do this.
Yeah. Woo! Pig Suey.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on to Friday's games now. The first game then is the number 6 seeded Ole Miss Rebels versus number 2 seed Michigan State Spartans. Izzo's crew is given 3.5 points. Over unders 144.5. What do you got here, Pat?
I know now as a grown man that not to bet against Izzo in the tournament. I've learned my lesson multiple times. So there's no research here. It's just it's like a do not touch hot stove. Don't do it. I've learned my lesson. Izzo. So give me Michigan State, even though I would like to see Ole Miss keep going. They're a fun team to watch, but give me Michigan State.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000,000% on Tom Izzo. He's been my favorite coach forever in college basketball, so absolutely love it. I don't think though. Here's my thing with this game. I actually think the SEC is much better than the Big Ten. So where I find myself in this case is Ole Miss has looked pretty good. And I just feel like this game, even though Sparty's been playing well, I just am going to take Ole Miss and the points. And I'll probably be in the same boat as you saying never, why would I bet against Tom Izzo? I love the guy. But I'm going to take Ole Miss here and probably hate myself for it, on Saturday.
He's
Bill,
ruined so many of my
brilliant,
brackets.
beautiful, bald brother. I love you, man. You are dead on with that one. I do think this is the toughest of all the games to pick, though.
Me too.
Because I just can't tell the past point. Is this another magical Izzo run to the Final Four, or does it end? Just all end in with smoke and mirrors. These are fairly evenly matched teams, hence the small line of 3.5. I'm leaning towards Ole Miss. I just could. I do. You're dead on, Bill. It's a great point. I do think the SEC is better than the Big Ten, and I think Ole Miss is a very good team. If you look at their losses, the majority of them are against really good teams. Not saying Michigan State isn't, but if you're giving me 3.5 points here, I will take Ole Miss. But I really like the under here. It's 143.5 or 144.5, excuse me. The over under started at 140.5, and it's ballooned up. I don't see this being a very high scoring game. So
totally agree.
All right. Next game, Kentucky, number 3 seed versus number 2 Tennessee. This is going to be a great game. This is probably the game I'm looking forward to the most. Tennessee's -4.5, over unders 146.5. What do you got here, Mr. Klett?
I've watched these teams a couple times this year. I watched the Kentucky-Arkansas game earlier in the year. I've watched Tennessee play Auburn, Tennessee play a couple games. And I like Tennessee. I like their guards. Zakai Ziegler.
You talked about them a bunch.
They can shoot, and I just don't trust Kentucky this year. So yeah, give me Tennessee.
Yeah, I feel like you're right, but for some reason I was going with Kentucky here. I don't know. I hear you on everything Tennessee. They just look like they're probably the better team here. I mean, Eric just mentioned Coach Cal hasn't won anything in the tournament with these players, and probably in large part that now Mark Pope, former Husky, shout out Mark Pope. He's done a nice job with the team. I think Kentucky's playing better as the seasons wore on. I think that they're looking good in the tournament so far. I think I agree with what Eric said. This game should be an awesome game. And so I honestly have no feel for it whatsoever. But in that case, I'm going to take Kentucky in the points just based on the way that they've been playing. But this should be a fun one, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really looking for this one. It's a tough one to pick from a betting angle because, well, for some of the things you both have mentioned, but Tennessee has lost twice already to Kentucky this season, and now they play a third time and they're favored by 4.5. So it's kind of odd. It's also in Indy. A lot of UK fans will be at Lucas Oil to cheer on the Wildcats, but I do think this is where the Kentucky run ends. I'm with Pat in the fact that Tennessee is, I think they're one of the most underrated teams in all of America, even a number 2 seed. Like I just don't think they were picked a lot to be champs. Everyone's picking Florida, Duke, Auburn,
great coach,
Houston.
Great coach.
I just really like Tennessee. They have no bad losses. I saw them live at Rupp last week. They have so many weapons, and this is interesting though. They are top 6 in defensive scoring, but they're 100th in scoring offense. And then Kentucky is the exact opposite. They're number 4 in the nation in scoring, but they're 310th in defensive scoring allowed. So because of that, I have no idea in the over under because it could, you don't know which of those styles and which of those trends is going to hold true. But I like Tennessee to win here. So I'll give the 4.5. All right, 2 more here. Number 5, Michigan versus number 1 seed Auburn. Auburn's given 8.5, over unders 152.5. What do you got here, Pat?
Give me Auburn. I think it's going to be one seeds the rest of the way. Auburn, they look like they're riding the ship, and they got the guys that can do it. Michigan, I keep betting against Michigan, and they keep proving me wrong. So I didn't think they looked that good against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championships, and I don't know how they're doing it. So give me Auburn. Yep.
Yeah, well, same. I think I actually liked Michigan and I mentioned that in our predictions last week, and I think even Bierman was like, "What are you doing? This team's not that good." But I do. They just have enough good players that I kind of like them. But I think that run ends here. I think Auburn's starting to figure things out again, starting maybe to round into some form. Again, this line feels like 4 or 5 points too low to me. So I'm going to take Auburn.
Auburn probably has the bigs to handle their bigs, be physical enough with Golden. And I think Auburn has the bigs that can finally do that. So,
yeah.
What about you, Eric?
That Golden guy he's terrible too. I'm not a fan of that kid.
I think Bill and I think Pat and I have only agreed on one, the Duke pick. And we're not going to agree on this one either.
Let's go blue.
This is not a homer pick though. I just think Michigan has been rising to the occasion, and something about Auburn just seems off to me.
Yeah, I get it.
5 or 6 games. Eric, I saw them again in
Eric, will you buy that kid crying in the background some ice cream? Get that kid some ice cream in a hurry.
I know.
I mean, what does this kid have to be unhappy about on Grand Cayman?
He's like, Grand Cayman Island, like
shit.
Put him on the show.
Should I bring him on? Should I bring him on as a guest host here?
Bring him on. Yep.
Yeah. Shut that kid up. We're trying to do a podcast here.
It's going to be amazing if we can come back for a 33rd episode. That's all I'm saying, guys. Oh my God.
You're a champ for being down there doing it, man. You are an absolute trooper.
Yeah. Let's just hope I don't have to see my wife anytime soon. She's probably mad at me. She's out. She's touring Grand Cayman without me right now. She's like,
oh my gosh.
How long can she be mad on vacation?
Top 5.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't need to do a top 5.
No. Hey, you guys, No,
All right.
we're gonna keep going here, but
Okay.
now they submit, Auburn, they look stale in the first half against the 16 seed there in Lexington. They probably do win this game still, but I think it's a lot of points for against a team like Michigan with momentum. So we'll take Michigan in the points. And for Michigan to keep it close, I do think they're going to have to keep a lower scoring. So I kind of lean toward the under 152.5 in this game too. All right, let's get to the last game here. Number 4, Purdue versus number 1, Houston. Cougars, 7.5-point favorites. Over-unders, the lowest scoring one, 132.5. What do you got here, Pat?
I think Houston D can shut down the shooters of Purdue. So give me Houston. But if you like Purdue, you're going with the over. I think if you like Houston, you're going with the under.
Yep.
So if you think Purdue can get hot and they got the hot hand, they got the hot shooters, you might pick the over. Because that's kind of a lower number, right? What'd you say it was? 130?
132 and a half. Lowest number of all 8 games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Pat just absolutely nailed it from my perspective. I totally agree. If you like Purdue, you're probably over. I love the under here, and I love Houston. I just think Braden Smith, that kid is going to have a tough go against these guards, this athleticism. I actually really think Kelvin Sampson's one of the best coaches in college basketball. He's probably a cheater. He's probably not a good dude, but he just has his teams every single year.
Yes, he
coached. Yes, he coached at Wazoo. Yes,
I was going to say, at Wazoo.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
He probably has 4 boys named Calvin at home.
Yeah. I actually heard a great interview with him this week where he was saying, "My name is Kelvin, not Calvin." And my mom told me when I was a young boy, if anybody mispronounces your name and calls you Calvin, that you correct them. You tell them your name is Kelvin. And so he does that. And there was some reporter, I don't know if you guys heard this, but he called Gonzaga. And Kelvin Sampson corrected him. And it was awesome. And he's like, and it's Spokane, not Spokane. Okay. And I mean, he was just going off on it. It was this like random, almost Mike Leach type tangent rant. It was pretty classic. But anyway, Houston, Berman, I'm going to let you get back to your wife. I'm going to cut this short. Houston is my pick. I love Houston. Berman,
I am right there with you, dude. I love Houston. I love the under. Purdue is not a good team. I'm shocked that they're in the Sweet 16. I still am not convinced.
Team, right?
Houston.
Worst team left.
Yeah, I think they're the worst team left.
Me too.
I still can't visualize Houston in the Final Four for some reason. I think they will lose before that, but I don't think it's.
They have Tennessee next round. If Tennessee wins,
would it be Tennessee or would it be Alabama?
I think it's Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. It is. It's Tennessee.
Tennessee or Kentucky.
So maybe Tennessee. Yeah, I think Houston will lose that game, but I love them to roll actually in here. They have the number 1 rated scoring defense. I just think they're going to frustrate Purdue. Yeah, me too. So, all right, guys. Well, let's see how those pan out on Thursday and Friday. Should be another fun weekend of hoops action. All right. Let's get into our top 5 now because I'm doing this podcast from Grand Cayman and just got off the cruise ship. We figured a vacation theme could be a good one for this top 5. So we'll do top 5 of our favorite past vacations or vacation spots we haven't been to but would like to at some point. So dream vacations. You can mix and match. You can take it however you want. Ones you've been on, ones you want to go on. But that's going to be our top 5 today. So Pat, what do you got for number 5 and 4?
Well, so I've been to a lot of cool places. I lived in Guatemala and I lived in Spain. I spent a week in Italy and Canada, Banff and Jasper, Florida, Mexico, Costa Rica. But I don't want to look back. I want to look forward to places I want to go. So all mine are going to be places I would like to go. And that starts with
sounds good.
My number 5 is Cincinnati.
Yes.
Hey, well, in about 6 weeks, you're going to be able to check that off.
I know. Just a reminder. I just want to say that's coming up. No, my number 5 is
Perfect.
actually, and these are in no particular order. I'm just going to go with 5 of them. But Ireland,
Oh, good. I'm
Yeah,
glad that we're honoring the
homeland.
sanctity of our top 5. They're in no particular order, though. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Look,
Ireland's is
Eric,
one. Ireland's is one. It's homeland.
Eric,
It's the homeland.
Eric, if you want to see episode 34, you will give me my time, okay? And put your mic on mute so we don't have to listen to that stupid baby cry anymore. No, number 5, Ireland. Let's go with Ireland. I don't love the sun. I'm whiter than white toast, and I would love to travel through cloudy Ireland and possibly throw in some golf out there. I think that would be a sweet golf destination. Travel from pub to pub, crushing Guinness and thinking about my ancestors. It's all about the ancestors, as you know. And then I thought Switzerland would be kind of cool. It's expensive, but how cool would that be to go to the Swiss Alps and hike or ski through the beautiful little villages they have there? And I know it's expensive, but let's assume money is not a problem for this because it's just hypothetical dreamland that we're in. So I am in Switzerland. With my pockets full of money. So
love
Bill?
it. Yeah, I love that Pat was future looking and I did the complete opposite. I actually just was thinking back to all the fun trips we've had and vacations we've had.
And I did half and half, so this is
nice.
Perfect.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah. My 5 and 4 are kind of combos with just trips I've taken with Marcy for anniversaries, whatever. We've just seeing London and France. That's my 5 and my 4. I just so, a lot of touristy things obviously to see and do there, but it's like they all delivered. It was like the Tower of London was so cool. The Eiffel Tower was just so cool in Paris. And then France just absolutely blew me away when we went up north. I'm a World War II history buff. I was a history major at University of Washington. Military history specifically was kind of my thesis and senior thesis, where I wrote about the impact of Jackie Robinson and World War II, and it was a super fun project. But anyway, I digress.
Bill, are you a pretty good Risk player? Then I love Risk. You're pretty good at.
I love Risk, but Axis and Allies, if you've never played that one is
great too.
I love that board game. But
maybe we need to get a Risk game going in
that'd be fun.
In May. Yeah.
That'll take the whole trip.
Yeah. Axis and Allies would. I know that game took forever. But just the D-Day beaches, going up and seeing those in person, walking on the beach, going into a museum that was connected there and having the French people thanking us profusely for being American and saving them. And Marcy and I both were just blown away by the people. Palace of Versailles, Mont Saint Michel, Montmartre, where I saw a juggler standing on the top of the steps. If you guys have ever been, it's like 300 steps down this hill, and there's this cathedral on the top, and this guy's juggling a soccer ball, standing on this like perch of the railing. It was probably the most amazing thing I've ever witnessed in terms of this guy. If he has one faulty touch, that ball is bouncing 300 steps down. Anyway, so just really cool. England and France.
That's awesome.
Those are my 5 and 4.
That's awesome, Bill. Yeah, so I will just start off by saying I am an extremely lazy vacationer. For me, a perfect vacation includes a pool, a beach, lots of alcohol, and not a whole lot more than that. So there's not much sightseeing on my list. My number 5 actually goes back more than 50 years. My wife's grandmother started going to the Outer Banks in North Carolina, specifically Nags Head, back in the late 60s with her husband. Then they started bringing Jamie's mom, and then Jamie's parents brought Jamie and her brother. And then I joined the fun years ago when we started dating, and now we're married. So we go every year, always in mid-July, same week every year. We have the same unit. Many of Jamie's aunts, uncles, cousins all go same week. So sometimes we have as many as 50 people all in their own units, but we'll see each other at the beach and pool. So from, 10 a.m. to 6, I'm sitting on the beach. I'm drinking a lot. I shower, I go out for a great dinner, and that's it. Next day, it's the exact same thing, rinse and repeat. So awesome
Love it.
vacation every year. And the number 4 is just cruises in general. I'm relatively new to cruising, as our first one was just a couple years ago. This is our third one. We went on 2 Royal Caribbean ones. This one is Celebrity, but all have been fantastic. We have 2 more already booked for the next in the next 18 months. Royal Caribbean's great if you have kids. They have tons of water slides, activities, all that. We're on Celebrity this week. We don't have kids with us now, and it's been good. I've been very impressed. It's a little higher end, I feel like. Food has been fantastic. The rooms are a little bigger. Great nighttime entertainment. So it's been
Nice.
really good. But I would throw to, just because we're talking about cruises, I would love to go on a Greek cruise. The islands of Greece. I think that would be a pretty cool cruise to go on at some point. I heard that's incredible. So, all right, Pat, what do you got for number 3 and 2?
Number 3 is New Zealand. Seems like a different planet. I have never heard a bad thing about it, and it looks amazing. So it's not like it's next door. So you gotta set aside a week or two. But once you get there, just all the pictures I see, it just seems really cool. So New Zealand. And then number 2, I would be fearful to go to this country because it is so foreign. And inability to speak a language can be difficult. But I have always been enamored with the pastoral landscapes of China, as well as their complex cities and just crazy buildings and cities. Like, I would love to see Shanghai, and I would love to see the landscapes of China for number 2. So
nice.
But
I've never been to Asia. That is something I would love to see as well.
Thailand.
Japan, China.
People say good things about Thailand, and
yeah.
I know someone who's in Vietnam right now and sending pictures. It's really cool. So
yeah. I've had a buddy that hit all that Southeast Asia and just said it's awesome. Singapore, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. Those are awesome, Pat. For me, my number 3 is Hawaiian Islands. I guess specifically Maui. That's where we usually go. My daughter Sydney's over there right now with her boyfriend on spring break, soaking in the rays. One specific trip I wanted to call out. We were over there for a wedding, and my dad came with us, and then my dad and I hopped on a plane, and we actually flew over to Oahu, where we got to go see Pearl Harbor. And again, military history and just loving my country and everything that place means to the United States and the world, really, in terms of world history. That was just so cool. And one of the things I wanted to shout out about this was there were actual docents there. We went long enough ago that there were docents that served at Pearl Harbor December 7th, 1941. And those guys were there talking to us. And what a treat to talk to those veterans and their experiences and everything. And obviously, I think most, if not all of those guys are gone. So anyway, that was a really neat trip and cool to share that with my dad. And then the second one is kind of a vacations on a whim. We don't do this enough, right? Like we're planners. Like we kind of do the plan and get it all done. Well, a few years back, we decided it was right before COVID hit, I think, or right during COVID to start. But we actually in Christmas time decided we're just going to drive down to Palm Springs, which is about a 20-hour drive from here, 22 hours maybe. And we rented a house with a cool pool, and we just spent a week plus over the Christmas break. And it was so fun to not have all the things that you got to go do. All the family events and all that, which are always great. We love seeing the family, but it was just so nice to just go down as a family and enjoy Palm Springs. And that drive, we love long drives. So that was really fun. The second one I'll just throw in there as my 2B is there's a place called Iniat where Marcy and I got married. It's on the east side of the state of Washington. I grew up going there with my best buddy, John Cottons, and they have a 5-acre apple orchard right on the Columbia River. We drag our trailer over there. We grew up sleeping in tents, but it is just such a cool spot to go vacation for a week or two. And it's a little bit to Eric's point of like, we don't need to go anywhere. We get over there. We enjoy the water. We enjoy the sun. We just relax, drink, have fun, play games, cards, etc. And it's just, those are just the best vacations. So Bierman, what do you got for your 3 and
Love
2?
it, dude. I want to go on vacation with you. Sounds fun. So my number 3 is one that Pat said earlier, Switzerland. I've always wanted to go to Switzerland. I've just heard it's beautiful. A good friend of ours took his family there to ski in January, and he said it was just incredible. And as I shared with you guys a few weeks ago, in January, my family and I went on a ski trip to Colorado, and it was near the top of my list for just great vacations. Had a wonderful time. So I think combining skiing with the family and going to Switzerland and seeing the Alps and all that, I think just would be very, very cool. And by the way, he did say Switzerland's not as expensive as you would think, Pat. So I think the flights might be, you got to kind of figure those out. But once you're over there, he was actually pretty surprised at how reasonable it was.
Oh, nice.
And then my number 2, we'll go back to the beaches here. I would love to go to any tropical resort, but for this one, I want to go far, far from here. So perhaps like the Maldives or Bora Bora, or really just any beautiful resort in a different part of the world that I haven't been to. They, those particular 2 both have like overwater bungalows that you can stay in, like,
those
right,
look
which
awesome.
Those look great. Just sounds so cool to me. The only problem,
as long as you're not a sleepwalker,
is that yeah, no kidding. The only problem that is the flights are typically 20 plus hours, I think. So like, to kind of your point with New Zealand, I mean, you pretty much have to stay there 2 weeks if you're gonna have your sanity with that. So but I think I can handle that. I can handle 2 weeks over there in the Maldives. All right, Pat, what do you got number 1?
Number 1 for me is France. My daughter's taking French right now in school. And we've talked about this forever. We used to do this thing called date night, where I would take my daughter somewhere, my wife would take my son somewhere, just on a Friday. And then the next date night, we'd switch it. I would go with my son, she would go with the daughter, and we'd just go places, every month. And we were talking back then, like, we should probably make our last like date night thing a trip to France when the kids are older. And my son will be going to college in a couple of years. So before he goes to college, we're planning on going over to France. And, just the romance of it, the beauty of it, the just the culture and being just obnoxious Americans and having them hate us. That would be awesome. Just to walk around with a big USA flag and just be obnoxious. And yeah, that would be the goal. But yeah, it's just the beauty of it all. It's always been kind of captivated me, is just the romance of it all. So what about you, Bill?
Yeah, you guys will love that. That's a really cool idea to do that with your kids. That's neat.
The problem is, we were talking about, Eric was saying like his wife or he likes to have relaxed vacations. I do too, but my wife cannot sit still and she wants to be moving and moving. The last thing she wants to do is go to a museum or go see like, things like that. She wants to be out running around and doing things. So that France will be a difficult trip for that, because I want to just go to museums and look at art and sit at cafes.
The Louvre is,
and she does not.
You could spend 2 days. You could spend 2 days in there and not even see it all. It's insane how big it is.
I love museums. My daughter loves museums, but my wife, and so we might have to split that trip up and do like all right, we'll meet you in Spain or something at the end of it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
yeah. The catacombs, another cool thing to check out. Cool tour. Yeah, France is awesome. You guys will just absolutely love it. My number 1 is Costa Rica, which I think Pat mentioned earlier. It was just such a fun country, and we went down there with our big soccer crew, Sydney's closest friends and their families. We had 30 of us. We rented this giant house in Ocotal, which is on the western coast. So we flew into Liberia and then drove out to Guanacaste and stayed on that side of the country. I love the beaches. We surfed in Tamarindo. Surfed. I mean, I tried to surf.
I did too. I couldn't do it. Yeah. I didn't get up.
It was so much fun, and I ate so much sand and salt water. I mean, it was just a blast. I mean, I got up twice, I think, in like long runs, twice out of maybe 100 tries, but I was laughing so hard and having so much fun with my kids out there. Also trying to make sure Will didn't float away into the ocean. That was a little stressful, but yeah, but then you go inland and, you have Arenal and the hot springs, the mountains, the rainforest, just an hour away from sun and heat to rain and cold. But the hot springs that we went to was just one of the coolest things ever, where you go into it and the lobby's at the bottom and you sign in, and then there's a pool there. And then as you go higher up on the mountainside, the pools get hotter and hotter and hotter as they come out of the geothermal heat, I guess, as you get higher up. But anyway, there's bars in every pool, and it was just one of the coolest things that we did. And the people in Costa Rica were so friendly and so nice. So Mars and I have talked about going back down there at some point. Just absolutely love that country. Can't imagine living there necessarily, but we have talked about it at some point if we were ever to just be expats and get out of the United States. But anyway, Costa Rica is my number one. Bierman, how about you?
Yeah, I've never been there, but I've heard incredible things about it. Would like to go there someday as well. But my number one is Maui or Kauai in Hawaii. I've been to Hawaii, but it was Oahu. And I mean, you're right. The Pearl Harbor thing is I would recommend everybody go there at least once. It was it's an intense day for sure, but I'm glad I experienced it. But I would my wife and I have never been to Hawaii together. I would love to go for 1 week to Maui, 1 week to Kauai. We're actively trying to plan this, actually, most likely
Nice.
for 2026 when it's our 15-year wedding anniversary. Again, it's long flights, but some of those resorts over there just look amazing. So again, pools, ocean, beautiful scenery, and alcohol. Sign me up. That's my
Nice.
number one.
Love it.
All right, boys. Well, that was fun. Hey, why don't you guys put your Bermuda shorts on, slap on that sunscreen, and meet me here in Grand Cayman? I got some beautiful ice cream here ready for you, man. Although they're probably going to kick me out here in 5 minutes. But all right, guys. Well, Bill, anything you want to share with the pools?
We got so much stuff, you guys, right now. Just info@entersandmansports.com. Email us and we'll get you set up if you're not set up already. There's just so much happening right now. March Madness, we're kind of out the backside now. We got a Sweet 16 brackets pool coming out this week. That starts Thursday, 4:09 Pacific. And then just tons of golf stuff with the Masters right around the corner. Baseball starting up this week is exciting. We decided to have everything start April 1st. So you still have time, even though the games are starting. April 1st for the home run derby and the top dog pools. So anyway, just email us. So much going on right now and a lot of fun stuff. Masters Squares. New pool that we're going to be dropping.
What is that? I didn't even know about that.
Squares. This is going to be fun, you guys. We've kind of brainchild thinking about how we could do something like this. It's going to be really fun. So we're excited about that one. That's obviously April 10th. When the Masters starts, we're probably going to do 2 different grids if we get enough interest for some different price points for everybody. But yeah, it's going to be really fun.
Oh, that sounds awesome, dude. That's awesome. Yeah. All right.
And Tay and Eric, tell Jamie thanks. From Pat and I too, and I know it's hard to shuffle around on this stuff, but you're a champ and a trooper for doing it.
I didn't say thanks. Guys. That's just
no,
for
you
Bill.
didn't.
Yeah,
you didn't.
Pat didn't.
No,
say
that's
thanks.
She's on vacation. She'll live.
Yeah.
She'll be fine. And then when we come out there, just remind Jamie that Pat did not thank her for this, and I did. Okay.
Pat will be sleeping in a sleeping bag in the garage. So enjoy, buddy.
Right.
Pretty standard.
Right. You're on the floor in Cooper's room.
All right.
I've got the nice bed downstairs. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Well, CMA Nation, thank you for putting up with us today in a little bit different surroundings. I know it's been noisy and now you guys are accustomed to, but still another super fun episode. And we're glad you joined us. But sadly, it is time to exit CMA Sports. Again, we say it all the time, but please, if you aren't already, please follow us, like us, subscribe to us, and spread the word to your friends. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and our website at entersandmansports.com. CMA Nation, have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the Sweet 16. Thanks for joining us. As always, peace out. Take care.
Good luck, everybody.